Alrighty, welcome to episode 194 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory has officially exported its 1 millionth Tesla. Notably, nearly 11% of those exports, namely 107,000 Teslas, have been imported into Australia. Of further note is the fact that those cars represent nearly 50% of all EVs in Australia. After a brief promotional visit to Liontown Resources' Kathleen Valley mine site, the Cybertruck is finally on display at Tesla's newly opened Scarborough Beach Road showroom. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and welcome to the show. Well, actually, it was the most pertinent local news. As is customary, if anyone is new and is comfortable in doing so, please do unmute and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later on. Okay, so who's going to kick us off with the first question or comment? Oh, oh gee, it's gonna be one of those nights.
On those nights, buddy.
I'll start. I'll start. Um,
Go for it.
Hands up if anyone knows what this is. So this is, sorry, let me just adjust this bit. This was the Northern distribution board
Oh.
switchboard for the Northern WAV network 150 kilowatt Kempower fast DC charger.
Mhm.
But as of today, and a hat tip to Huffy's for sending a couple of images, this now looks like this, where they've basically had to go back to scratch to replace this switchboard because basically the ground on which the concrete slab was placed was not properly compacted and it unfortunately subsided, which is what these props were basically holding up. So that basically explains why the Northern WAV network charger location isn't quite ready yet.
Mm.
Hopefully the works will be done quite promptly. I guess the concrete will probably take a week or so to go off before they can put the switchboard back in, and they have to pull all the cables through again and get the site reconnected and finally approved. Because I think it was Western Power that basically said that having a leaning switchboard is not to spec. So that will actually, once it's fully completed, that will be Synergy's final piece of their part of the WAV network. And then, of course, all we need to do is eagerly await Horizon Power's completion of their side of the network, which I think has about half a dozen sites that need to be completed. But hopefully they'll all be done roughly by the end of the year. Alrighty, has anyone?
Then we just have to wait for NRMA to start a single one of their sites in West Australia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on,
Quite.
NRMA. I drove back down Bloody Brand Highway again last week, and it would have been really handy for you to have done your job.
Yes, and it's going to be really handy. It would have been really handy to get to Geraldton. Yeah, you're right, Ken.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Oh,
I suspect we might have a second supercharger on the way to Geraldton before we have either of those two things built.
yes. Actually, incidentally, has anyone recently, as in the last week or so, had a look at Greenhead to see if there's any further progress on that site?
No, I'm planning to drive up next week.
Me
Sue's going to
too.
possibly be driving through tomorrow in the other direction, but I could get her to take a sticky beak.
Yeah, cool. She know, well, you know where it is because
Yeah.
I don't know if Chuck's in
Well,
the
I don't
house.
think it is going to be where the pin is, or where the kind of initial stuff is, because there doesn't seem to be any infrastructure there at all. But
Yes, yep, indeed, and in fact that's in line with what I personally saw when I went there a few weeks ago, because that site that where the pin actually is nowhere near even 22 kV proper feed. So it'd be unusual for Tesla to have to conduit or trench a long way from a feeder. But I think you're right, Ken. Wouldn't it be ironic that another supercharger will precede the NRMA? Although I think there is an NRMA site in WA, in Perth somewhere.
is there?
Yeah, it was called NRMA. It's the new site. It's the new 120 kilowatt ABB. Pete, is that the site that you used? If you're around.
Sorry, Harold, what was that?
The NRMA. Did you use NRMA charger? Is it the 120 kilowatt ABB?
It's not the one in Butler that I used, was it?
I'm not sure it's labelled as NRMA,
I think it might have
which
been.
is really strange.
Mm.
It's not on their website. Oh, sorry, it's not on their app, on the NRMA app, but it's available through ChargeFox.
I'll have a check.
Cool. Alrighty. Any other bits of news or comments that anyone wants to make?
Any news from your trip across the Nullarbor? Any changes to the charging there? I know we haven't got the EV network, but any updates? Anyone doing anything different?
Yes, thanks, James. So I don't have any direct evidence of this. I've just got to take Rob Dean's word for it when he rang me earlier and said that there have been reports that the 50 kilowatt RAA tritium fast DC charger at Yalalta has been installed and commissioned. So I did try to find out where Rob got that info by just looking at a few forums and even on our Facebook page, but didn't see any evidence. But I trust Rob that it's correct. So yeah, so James, that is actually a big deal, because Yalalta is only a handful of kilometres away from the Nullarbor, the NRMA Nullarbor disaster, Nullarbor Roadhouse disaster.
With the Nullarbor, is there any pattern to that? Is it like good in the middle of the day on a sunny day, or is it intermittent every time?
It is good as long as no one uses it and the sun has been shining for a while. So if no one uses it and the batteries, the batteries are full, then you will probably come close. And it's also and the sun is shining brightly, then you'll have a fairly good chance of getting a full charge. But if the sun's not shining brightly and a couple of cars or even a car has just used it or used it recently, you just got to disconnect and go round the corner and use the 20 kilowatt Delta charger, which
So best chances to arrive early afternoon, hopefully.
No, look,
No.
the best time to arrive is whenever you get there. That it's
All right.
you because you never know what you're going to find. You literally, if you find well, the worst case is if you find a car trying to charge there or two cars trying to charge there, and then a third car charging around the corner. So it's pointless trying to to war game an itinerary to try and cope with that. Best thing to do is on the way to Melbourne or to Geelong is yes, do use Nullarbor if it works, and presuming there are positive reviews on PlugShare, which there will be by the time any of us get there. Look, if it's working, keep using it. You might as well. And then if and when it stops working properly, just go to Yalalta and finish the charging session. On the way back, obviously for anyone coming from over east to WA, again, definitely use Yalta because that's a proper power supply, an external power supply that should work properly. Touch wood, and fill up there. And you could always do a top up at Nullarbor. I mean, unless of course you're overnighting or something, depending on schedules and all that sort of stuff. But
Yalta's 90 k's from Nullarbor.
90.
Yep.
Yep. So if you're towing a caravan, that's about half your range. So it's actually not a bad sort of interval. So sadly, it still really means that you need to rely on Nullarbor to be working, or at least use the Delta charger around the corner.
And 200 k's from Ceduna. So that's reachable with the caravan.
Yalta, yes.
Yeah.
But strategically, a great place to overnight
Penong.
is Penong. Very good place to overnight. Because that way it's a lot. I think Penong is 80 kilometres from Ceduna, so it's even closer to the Nullarbor Roadhouse, or Yalta for that matter. And actually, Yalta is really going to change the equation because it's going to make it. You have much less reliance on Nullarbor, and you also need to spend a fair bit less time at Nullarbor. So hopefully people will be using Yalta more and take the load off Nullarbor until it's properly fixed. One day, like El Dunda, one day.
Yeah, looks like there's no changes in plug share for Yalta yet. No recent check-ins, still coming soon. So we'll just have to wait and see.
No,
if
that's
anyone
right,
happens
James.
to use it.
Yeah, I wish Rob was on the chat because I'd love to know where he saw it. Apparently, someone driving a Tesla went past. They couldn't use the charger because the technicians from the RAA, or working for the RAA, were actually filling up their car, testing the unit. So it's basically very confident that it's working. I think John Edwards, unfortunately, he's driving a Hyundai Mighty EV truck, first one to go around Australia, or the first EV truck to go around Australia. He should be transiting there in the next couple of days. But unfortunately, he doesn't plug share very often. So again, it'll just be communicating with him directly. But we should know in the next couple of days and hopefully get some plug share posts up once people realise it's actually working, or if they're curious enough to have a look. Alrighty. Okay, has anyone got any other questions or comments?
Just to follow up with that Charge Fox thing. So yeah, 23rd of June 23. Probably can't see that. Oh no, there we go. Yeah, so it does actually come up as NRMA as opposed to WA EV network. But when I look at the picture back on PlugShare, yeah, it's just, as you say, got ABB on it and a little Charge Fox logo.
And so where was it? Where's that located?
Well, in just outside the Anaconda in Butler, on the edge of Alkimos.
Oh, Anaconda, yeah, got it. Okay, seen. All right, so it's. Oops, sorry. I'll just bring up the image there. You can see a few images, and yeah, it's just it's an unbranded ABB charger with a useless CHAdeMO on it, and
not quite useless because I've got a CHAdeMO adapter. And if it's only got two sockets, I use the CHAdeMO so that if someone turns up with the CCS2 and that's the all they can use, that then they can get on it, which is exactly what happened.
Oh, so you can actually, so it does do dual outlets.
Yep.
So it'll halve the power. Cool. That's yeah. So yeah, it's useful for a handful of Model X's and S's, and that's it. It's
as long as you're happy to limit yourself to 50 kilowatts.
I don't think it does.
It does. No, it does.
The CHAdeMO adapter maxes at 50, so you will go faster on the CCS.
Gotcha. Okay. God, yeah.
But it's very citizen friendly of you to just draw 50 from the other socket.
To be honest, this clapped out old Model X that I've got doesn't really charge much faster than that. So
I humbly have to agree with you. Richard.
I don't know. It's because people keep driving around and around and around the country and expecting the batteries to just keep going. Hey, I got
Yes.
117. I got 117 kilowatts on the Model S a week or two ago. I was really impressed.
Very good. Very
It's got
good.
life in it yet. Hey, there was a question in the chat about the Spotify update from Tesla. Should we have a bit of a chat about that?
Yes, indeed. So obviously, most of us or all of us have probably gotten an email regarding it. Now, the actual wording is a little bit strange because from my reading of it, I mean, at the moment, if you don't put in your own Spotify email login, it just uses the Tesla Premium Spotify account. So you don't have ads or anything like that. Now, isn't it true, Ken, that the way you read the email, or when you read it, it's basically implying that you can either from the 1st of December, I think it is, you can either enroll your own premium Spotify account and just use it as normal, or you need to enter in your own email address and use whatever that is, a discounted or a basic Spotify service.
Yeah, that's right. So you'll get the Spotify app is still there and it will continue to work. And if you have a Spotify Premium account, it will work as before. But basically, Tesla are no longer supplying Spotify Premium. So if you put in your details, my understanding, and I've only just updated one of my cars to the software version that will allow me to test it, and I haven't tested it yet, you'll just get Spotify Standard, which is ad supported. So you get music streaming, but there will be ads.
Sure. Right.
And it should, with the new version of the software, bring any playlists or things you've added to your Tesla's account into that account. But of course, the other thing that Tesla have been doing in the last 12 months has been progressively adding alternatives for music streaming. So, chances are you're paying for one of them. Like I pay for both Apple Music and Amazon Music, so I can actually use either of them. So it's no skin off my nose, particularly.
Yep.
Other than for the car that's got free unlimited premium, it would be nice to keep having free stuff, but that's the way it goes.
And I thought it might have been a slightly missed opportunity on Tesla's part, whereby they could have done some shrinkflation and said, well, premium connectivity now is without Spotify Premium. But however, if you want Premium Plus, we could provide that to you for an extra $5 a month. And maybe you might then get premium versions of some of those other apps. But I guess maybe Tesla's just gone simple and just said, oh, we just don't want to be involved and we'll let the users deal with those providers directly.
Yeah, and I think it's also been complicated for them because they have different agreements in every market. So we have Spotify Premium in Australia and in certain places in Europe. And in the US, continental US and Canada, they don't have Spotify Premium. They have another streaming service called Slacker. And my understanding from various discussions around the feeds is that they're going away as well. So I think basically they've just decided having all of these things that they're paying for in different markets all over the place is just complicated. So they're just removing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Providing the connectivity rather than the actual services from the streaming
basically
services.
that's right. Yeah. Because I guess what they've discovered and probably what they can tell by watching us is that a lot of us have our own subscriptions anyway. So it's probably a minority of users that only use the free one.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, one thing I was discussing with someone that I might actually do personally is my wife has a premium Spotify account, but I obviously don't want to pollute her playlist by me just tagging along. But apparently you can get a family subscription at a fairly good discount, and then it keeps the playlists separate. So that could be another very viable sort of solution.
That's exactly what we do, and it works great.
Yeah.
I think that's up to 5 different users in the one family plan. I think maybe 4 or 5 or 6.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cool. Oh, okay. So my kids might want to do that as well. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, eventually they'll probably do the Netflix thing and detect. Technically, you're all meant to be in the same household, I think, but I'm pretty sure at the moment there's not really a strict check around that at all. But I'm sure they'll get to the point like Netflix do make it hard to share accounts across different households and networks. But in the meantime, we're sharing Spotify with in-laws and things like that, all under the one family plan, and it's happily chugging along.
Yeah, and Netflix seems to be working quite fine. I mean, to be honest, I don't use it that often, but I have logged my car in and my wife's car. But then the fact of the matter is, if we're watching it in a car, we're not watching it somewhere else anyway. So as long as you don't exceed the number of unique devices simultaneously streaming, I guess it's going to be okay anyway.
I think we've had issues actually with Netflix, not with Spotify, but yeah, Netflix we used to have the cars logged in, but yeah, when we drive to somewhere that isn't home, it splits the dummy and yeah, we can't use that anymore. So I must admit I haven't tried it again for a couple of months, so I'll probably might as well try it in a sec now and see if it works.
Yeah, cool. Excellent.
Well, I suppose that won't help though, will it? Because then I'd have to drive somewhere. But
No, that's exactly right. Or unless you could go onto a different internet, like tether off something that's not your home internet, something like off your phone, straight off the mobile network or something.
it might do geolocation though. So.
Oh, okay. Yep. Cool. Alrighty. We got any other questions or comments? It's only about 10 sleeps. No. It's about 9 sleeps until what's called the We Robots event now. That Tesla has decided to call it that, sort of provocatively. So that's going to be quite interesting to see which version of the Robotaxi, or how many different versions, or how many variants, and possibly whether they're going to announce a reduced price Model Y, perhaps with reduced specs, and a Model 3 and other things. So I guess we're going to wait for one more Ask Us Anything and then 2 sleeps for that event, which should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I put it in for annual leave for that day, so I can watch it at 4 in the morning.
Oh yes, you mentioned that last week. Yes,
But I actually did annual leave, so nothing dodged.
Very good, very good. No worries. It's always good to see diligent employees.
Yep. Oh, the numbers tomorrow, delivery numbers.
Oh yeah, actually they might be tonight, because there was talk about it being 8 a.m. US time on Wednesday, which is depends, it'd be Texas time. So I'm not exactly sure what that is right this moment. But in LA it's 4:55. Texas would be a little bit in front, probably by a couple of hours. So it's nearly 7 o'clock. Maybe about in the next hour or two, I think we might get delivery numbers, which would be
get ready for another dip.
I don't know about that.
It depends. I think tests. I'm not sure what the street consensus is, but
460.
460.
Yeah, but the last few times when they've posted a good result, it's gone down. So
yep,
good buying opportunity.
Yeah, it's the same as there's a bit of a run up at the moment, probably in the lead up to the Robotaxi event. But as often happens at these reveals, you buy on the rumor and then sell on the actual event itself, because Wall Street probably won't be happy enough with either the speed of which it's going to come out, or various aspects of the reveal.
Yep.
It's I don't think Tesla's ever really gone up to any appreciable amount after a reveal. It's usually been a bit of a disappointment to the street, to Wall Street, and analysts.
I noticed that. Yeah.
But obviously, if you're a retail investor, you're a lot smarter than the analysts, and you've got your own agenda, which is hopefully a long-term one, because that's always a good approach in the share market. Not that that's personal advice or anything, but
Sorry? You might need to play the thing.
I'll have to do that a little bit later because it's
All right.
I haven't done the
Oh, yeah.
captions, the credits, and all that sort of stuff,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
because it's really hard to do.
Don't worry, we won't see. No problem. Hey,
Non-financial advice.
at a slightly more micro level, I know I harped on about this the last time I was on, but I actually sat and worked out the savings on the Synergy EV home plan for my last bill because I'd never done that before. I thought it was good, but yeah, $160 for 60 days just by. And I only mention it because I was a bit late to the party. I wish I had got to it earlier. So if you haven't checked it out, it's definitely worth checking out because depending on your circumstances, I mean, I get to charge my car during the day between 9 and 3, and that's where I'm getting all the savings. But yeah, it's a bit of a winner.
So you've obviously got the daytime saver plan.
Yeah,
midday
it's called.
saver,
I
sorry.
posted it in the chat. It's actually called the electric vehicle add-on.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
Well-
the one where you're paying just over 8 cents a kilowatt during the day from 9 till 3.
That's also
So
the same. That's also the same for the midday saver. The EV. This is the EV add-on. So that's the electric vehicle add-on. All that adds on is the off-peak at 18.9 cents, the overnight electricity rate. So that's the only discount that you get over.
Muted, mate.
Harold, mute.
You're muted, Harold. Anyway, it's working for me. So
Sorry,
yeah,
I didn't realise I was muted. That was very strange. That must have been a hotkey that muted that. Apologies for that.
no worries.
So this is the midday save. Sorry, this is the midday saver. So basically,
Oh
you're
yeah,
getting a great discount during the day. You're getting stung very badly between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. So that
Yep.
this is the real read the fine print. And obviously that's ideal if you've got battery storage. So
yeah,
with or without solar, because then you can basically get yourself over this 6-hour period between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. But the EV add-on just gives you a further discount over the off-peak overnight rate.
Yep.
And that's 18 point something cents. So to be honest, it doesn't make sense to get the midday saver if what you're looking for is purely the overnight discount, because the biggest difference is the 8 cents between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's bargain basement prices, especially if you don't have much solar or any solar. But then the problem is you get stung for 6 hours, and a lot of the consumption between, well, let's call it 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. is you just can't shift it. You know, if it's hot, you're going to use the aircon because you've just arrived home, and if you got to cook,
well, I run my dishwasher, my washing machine, dryer, and everything between 9 and 3. Any sort of slow cooking or anything like that, just run it during that time. The hot water system, what do you call it? The one with the air conditioner on the top of it. What do they call that again?
heat pump storage.
Get the heat pump, run that during the day. So you can, if you think about it, you can really capitalize on that. Yeah.
Yeah, we do the numbers for a family, and it doesn't make any sense at all because everyone gets home at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
We cook dinner. That's when we're going to do 2 loads of washing.
Yeah.
We don't use a dryer, but hot days, the aircon goes on. Cold days like this, the heating goes on, and we get smashed. And then if you charge your car during the day,
That's why
your
you
battery
need.
doesn't get charged.
That's why you
Yeah.
need.
Doesn't work because that gets charged off the if I charge my car during the day, then the battery at home doesn't get charged.
Right. Yeah.
What battery have you
Look,
got?
it is an individual thing. It's like that. financial advice
So-
thing.
Yeah.
So Richard Chapman, you were just saying something. You were just
Yeah.
asking.
What battery have you got?
Just a generic off-brand home 10 kilowatt battery.
Can you tell it
No,
to charge?
no arbitrage on it. No,
Because
yeah.
that's one of the things that drew
Yeah.
me to Powerwalls was that
Yeah.
you can tell it. I mean, I just tell it.
Yeah.
I kind of actually have learned to sort of fudge it by telling it that it can draw power off the grid at 1 cent, which obviously is not true, and then say that every other time of the day is $1, and that makes it do what I want it to do. Because what I found when I put in the actual prices, it started going, oh well, I might just draw a little bit, between like after night. Like,
Right.
no, I don't want that. But it took a couple of years to sort of figure out what it was doing. But yeah, that's how I've gamed it really, and now it does exactly what I've done it. Yeah, told it to do. So that is a little nuance of going with the Powerwall, which I kind of took a punt on, and it works well.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good point. But again, look, and if you're running a couple of EVs and you're doing a lot of kilometers, it's plausible that your EV use could be dominating your total power use.
Yeah.
In which case, and if you can shift that consumption to the midday super peak period, then that's a huge benefit. Because then you don't care about aircon at night or whatever for your house if your EV is the thing that's gobbling up most of the power.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
if
that's
you're
Yeah,
doing
we were on
50,000
the old system, Harold, the old one, the original one, but we just got an email a month ago saying they've stopped it. We have to move to the daytime saver with the EV add-on. It's okay. Still, we charge the 2 Teslas and the Leaf overnight, and we're still getting. We're still paying less than the tax gives us on our because they give us 4.2 cents a kilometre, and I think at night when we pay that one, it's only 6.8 cents. So, or opposite way around, whatever it is, we're making a profit.
Can you call Synergy up and just ask them to put the EV add-on on for no cost, or does it? Because we're on the midday saver, but I've not actually. There wasn't even the EV add-on when that came out. So.
Yeah.
But
You just have
it's
to prove you've got a EV.
But do they put it on for no cost?
Yep, no
Yeah.
cost. You just have to send them a rego or something
okay.
to prove.
You just have to apply and provide proof that you own an EV.
Okay, because the rationale is that, like, we very, very rarely do we ever draw any power off the grid overnight. It's only if, I don't know, like we were cranking everything in the middle of winter and then run out of power in the early hours. But so I've never actually bothered, and I thought, well, $100 to do it would make it. I'd never get that money back. But if it's free to do, then yeah, I'll do it.
Well, you've got the smart meter, so that can be reprogrammed remotely anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
as long as they don't do it for a charge, then it's worth it.
the only thing
didn't cost
is,
me anything, but you do need to consider, as others have mentioned, when your peak usage is. But if you've got a battery, Richard, then it's
So one thing, Richard, is you've got to, and it can be frustrating. You've got to make sure that at least one of your EVs is in the name of the person who is also the account holder.
Yep.
Of the
good
power
point.
supply.
Yeah, not a problem for us.
Really
but yeah,
frustrating because if it's a spouse,
tell everyone,
they go, no, that's not. You don't qualify. So if your partner has an EV and you have the Synergy account, it won't work. They refuse to allow it, which is very frustrating. And if it's in a business name, that even if it's your wholly owned business, family business, they do not allow it for the EV tariff.
I'll sell you a Leaf for $1, but you got to pay the rego and the insurance on it.
That's a very bad deal. Dearie me. I've got enough leaves that collect on my driveway as it is. I don't need to get a very big one. Oh dear. I don't even know if it would make it all the way from your place to my place anyway, James.
Yeah, it would.
My
It
tongue
would, slowly.
landed very firmly in my cheek.
68 kilometres, mate. Come on.
Ooh, yes. Okay.
I'm not that far north.
Well, in which case, if I didn't go through with the deal, I'd probably get the car for free because you wouldn't be able to drive it back home. Oh dear. We
No,
shouldn't be
my
too
daughter loves
mean.
it. It's cheaper than running petrol, and it suits her down to the T.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not any owner's fault that Nissan just absolutely just ripped off so many owners because, they allowed those battery packs to be mercilessly overheated and not managed properly. And that was no owner's fault. That was Nissan's fault. And they never made good on that appalling engineering decision that wrecked all those cars or all their battery packs. Anyway, hence this is why we all bought Teslas because it's a superior car. I mean, we already know that. Any other questions or comments?
Yep.
Oh, yes,
Harold,
James.
I'd love to switch topics. I noticed James was already talking about towing with his camping last week. I'd love to talk a bit about towing if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. I've never towed anything but a very simple trailer on cars a long time ago. I've got a Model Y tow package being installed later this week, which, as far as I can tell, is like it comes with a 7-pin flat connector. I've never seen anything but the old school round ones from anywhere else. But yeah, we're planning on towing a Jayco camper trailer, which I know you're familiar with also, as is James by the looks of it too.
Yes.
Just wondering what you did in terms of, as far as I can tell, the Jaycos are 12-pin connectors.
Yes.
At least the newer ones are. So
Yep.
in
Double
terms
row
of
flat. Yep.
yeah, whether it's worth getting it switched across to a 12. I've seen some info about you can't get constant 12-volt from the Tesla, generally speaking, to keep the fridge and things running. So just those sorts of considerations I'm mulling over at the moment while I'm waiting for the actual tow package to get installed.
Yep. So I've got a Jayco Penguin,
Yep.
and it obviously had the double row, so it's the 12 pin flat
Yep.
connector. I
Yep.
just went and bought a 12 to 7 adapter.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it basically, which I'm pretty sure just ignores all the bottom pins, the fat pins.
Yep.
Just ignores them altogether. And that works perfectly well with the brake controller, which incidentally, if you do need a brake controller, one option, unless you do the cigarette lighter sort of inertial one where you basically have a cable coming out your boot, and then you have like a double adapter that you sort of splice into not splice, but plug in line with your trailer connector. If you get let's call it a proper brake controller, you just need to get a part from Tesla. You just ask them for the brake controller
Yep.
adapter.
I think I saw
And-
that's $4 or $5 GP thing that they mentioned it in the
Yes,
user manual.
and it's a
I saw
Model
that.
X part number actually. It's really funny,
Yeah.
but it's the same part number as the Model X's get.
Yep.
And that basically plugs into the driver's side kick panel, basically where your right foot is next to the accelerator. Just behind there's actually a plug for that. And the actual thing you get, the adapter, is a plug with just 4 flying leads. There's plus 12 volts, ground, your brake lights signal, and the actual brake output signal or brake output. So, and then you can just combine that with any brake controller.
Yep.
Just a little thing on my own personal experience, which I'm not happy about, is I got a Red Arc brake controller.
Yep.
And the thing that really annoys me about it is that every time the car starts, it must briefly remove power from the supply pin to the brake controller, and the brake controller interprets that as a hard reset, and it then requires you to recalibrate the inertial, the controller, and that requires about half a dozen
Brake
medium
processing.
brake applications, which just wastes energy and really annoys me. And so most of the time during the daytime, I don't use the inertia, what's it called? It's like the brakes actually come on the proportional brakes in proportion to your deceleration. I just use the straight, you have a dial and you can select how much the brakes come on in a fixed sort of ratio, but it doesn't vary with how hard you put the brakes on. So during the daytime when there's less kangaroos and all that sort of stuff around, less wildlife, I'm slack because I don't want to waste the energy. But at night time, I have to sit there like an idiot and speed up to 30 k's an hour or 35, and then come to a stop. Speed up to 35, come to a stop. So in that case, it's really handy to have, like a reversing camera or something like that, so you can see if there's someone behind you, because it just looks really strange, and people probably think you're some senile grey nomad doing weird things with their car.
Yeah, you've got a twitching right
Now-
foot on the brake pedal.
Yeah. With their extra pins, check to see what Jayco's actually using them for, because I don't think they do.
They
Their,
don't.
their fat pins are for auxiliary, and they may be using it to run the fridge, but that might be all they're using it for.
Yeah, they gave me a pretty good
Yep.
wiring diagram the other day. But yeah, you're right. They're only using a couple of them, if any. It's just for the fridge is the main thing. So like the workaround, I guess, is running the fridge off gas while
You're not allowed to use.
while
That's
driving
that's
or
not allowed.
not allowed. Yep. All right.
But anyway,
Yep.
what you can do is I've told a lot, the 7-pin socket, the 12-pin plug will fit into the 7-pin socket. You don't need to do anything because it just accepts the top pins and the bottom pins just miss at the bottom. But it means if Jayco have then wired your fridge up to that, your fridge isn't getting powered.
Yep.
But that's a simple matter of flicking it in the car to run off the 12 volts. I assume you're going to get a battery in the
There's a
Jayco.
battery in it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
100 amp hour battery or something.
Yeah.
I think.
So all I've done is the same sort of thing. Mine only had the 7-pin, but mine's an older one. They were using the reversing cable to run the fridge, to run the 12-volt accessory, because you don't have reversing lights but there's such a huge volt drop. It's not really worth it anyway, and it doesn't make sense on an EV to be sucking juice out for the fridge. So I've just, on my 100 amp hour battery, just wired that directly to the fridge. So when I switch on the fridge, it's running off the 12-volt battery in the caravan.
Yeah.
So while I'm driving, it's not getting charged, but it's also not draining my car extra stuff. So when I get to a campsite, I plug it in and it charges up. So that's my workaround for that. And obviously a lot of people don't like it anyway, because they'll go to the Anderson plug and run really heavy cables, so there's less volt drop anyway from the vehicle to the caravan.
And that's what my Penguin's got. That's a current model Penguin.
Yeah.
And it actually came with an Anderson plug, which I've never used.
Yeah.
Most people would prefer that. Well, the 4 drivers prefer that because they run upgraded alternators, and they run big heavy cables from the front of the car to the back of the car. So it's not going through your wiring loom, and you're not losing all those. Because remember, for a caravaner, they're trying to charge huge batteries, and they've got house-sized fridges and 400 amp hours of battery, and they're trying to charge it off a underrated diesel alternator, and they're just losing so many volts, so they run huge big cables. I couldn't see the point of that for a Tesla because I don't want it drawing off my car.
You get all the range
So,
when you're towing.
Yeah, so I've got solar. I don't have them yet, but when I go longer, I'll put the solar panels on the roof of that. The solar panels will be charging the whole time and just run off the battery that's already in the Jayco.
Yep. So the solar on the roof of the camper to keep topping up the battery in the camper.
So when you're parking on a long trip
how else is there any other way to put juice into the battery in the camper if it's getting no power from the car? Like you plug it in, I guess, you plug it into the 15 amp at a campsite. That's
that's it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if you can get some panels up, it just depends on how far you want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, what I've done is not at all realistic or characteristic or normal.
So mine's cheaper, and we toyed about changing. We got the 3-way fridge, and they're really, really inefficient on the 240 volts and on the 12 volts. However, we want to do off-grid camping in the Tesla, and the gas is super good. So stupidly, it means for us the best solution is if we go into if we go, we'll go to Northam, say, charge up and go to somewhere in the middle of nowhere with no power, car's fully charged, and we can run the battery. The battery will run all the lights of the campsite, but the fridge will run on gas. and that's the most efficient way because that way we can stay out for days. We've only got a 100 amp hour battery at the moment in the Penguin, and that'll run the fridge, the 3-way fridge. It'll run it for 5 hours. So it's not a lot of time. That's with no solar input.
Whereas your gas bottle lasts for weeks running the fridge.
For weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know now with our current setup with no solar and a 100 amp hour battery, we can stay out for a week because the lights, LED lights, will run nothing, and the gas on the fridge will run forever, and then we can just leave the Jayco and run around.
And so when you're plugged into a campsite, 15 amp, you ideally probably want to charge the car and the camper battery as well. How do you manage that generally?
Overnight. So we I have one of those 15 amp hour little orange boxes.
Yeah. So you can split.
And so I can split it. So campsite goes to that. One of them goes to the caravan. One of them goes to the air fryer, and the other one goes to the car. But I only charge overnight. Same thing again because there's a big drawer on the caravan. So I set the timer on the Tesla to charge from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and I only tend to sit it on about 8 amps. But once again, that'll give me about 30% a night. Yeah. So like we were just camping for a week, so got there with 40%. Then it was like 60%, 80%, 100% by the time I'm ready to leave, and I could go around touring during the day.
Yep. Nice.
That's just trying to be a nice neighbor, not sucking all the but we have camp places where it's just overnight. So you'll crank it up to 15 amps to get as much as you can in the 8 hours you're there.
And have you managed to find a brake controller that's a little bit less problematic?
Yeah, I'm using the Electro one, the Bluetooth one.
Yep.
Only because I've got several trailers here, and they all got brakes. That means I don't have to. I can swap it between trailers.
Yeah, that's the Elect Brakes one, isn't it?
Elect Brakes, yeah.
And that just goes in line between your the trailer 12-pin.
Correct.
And into the car 7 from there.
Yep.
Yep. So that that makes sense. Great. All right. Very useful information. Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Have we got any other questions?
Can I say my dream setup is not as good as much as Harold's. I'm looking at the we're looking at the Anker F3800. It's a 3.8 kilowatt, one of those batteries on a wheel that allegedly can power your whole house. Has a 6,000 watt inverter in it, and then you can buy add-on batteries for it. So
what's that model again? The Anker.
It's Anker F3800.
Is it the Solix F3800?
Yeah, Solix. Yes, Solix. Sorry.
Solix. That looks a lot like a Bluetti.
Yeah, like the Bluetti, or like the EcoFlow. However, this one has a 6,000 watt inverter, and you can run 6 expansion batteries on it, so up to 50 kilowatts.
Kilowatt hours.
So at the moment, they don't have one for Australia, but in the US, you can buy a breakout box for your house.
Yep.
So the idea would be that sits in your garage when you're not camping, powering your house. And then when you go caravanning, you just can take the unit with you. Yeah, and that does the arbitrage that you can set to buy power at low prices. On the US model, not really. They haven't got the house connector for Australia yet.
Yep.
We're waiting to see what happens.
Very good. Very good.
But that seems like the best of both worlds, because I can expand my battery up to when I want, and I can take it camping. So if I want to go for a week, I could take it and an expansion and got like heaps. And that'll also give me, I think we worked it out, 3,800 gives you about 20 kilometers. So if you took it and one expansion battery, that's 40 Ks. That's a useful amount. Remember, I'm towing with a standard range Model Y. So that could be enough to get you to town if you had to.
I guess you're probably getting sub 200 kilometer range on the standard range towing, 100 and something. So an extra 40 is not insignificant.
Yeah, it's a significant. It gets you that buffer. Yeah, at freeway speed, so going down Forest Highway, the freeway at 100 kilometres, because that's as fast as you're allowed to go, might have been 105. We got 165 kilometres on a windy day.
Yep.
But that was running at about 360 kilowatts. Coming back this time, country road speed, in traffic. Yes, we could have overtaken people because we had the power, but if we just sat behind every other caravan at 80 kilometres, we're only pulling 260, and that gave us about 220 kilometres.
Yep.
And that's what you need for
Yeah.
the WAV network,
Yeah.
because the average distances are 200 kilometres.
Yeah.
And there are some that are like 230 or 40.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, there are some bigger gaps. But that's the
So-
challenge.
Yeah. Driving tonight, it probably wouldn't be a good idea.
No, you've got to just slow down. If
Yeah.
you're punching into a headwind, and all caravanners, even fossil fueled caravanners, know that if you're punching into a strong headwind, you're going to burn your juice, or you've got to slow down, or find some shelter behind something that's bigger than you to try and stop that buffering. But it just demonstrates, as good as a 200 kilometer interval is for fast DC charges, and for cars, it's absolutely perfect. If you're towing something, then the ideal interval is about 100 kilometers, because then in 20 minutes you can gain 200 kilometers of car range. But again, in a caravan, that is realistically more like half, between 50 and 60% of normal car range for a pop top or a camper trailer. If it's a full
Have you
height,
seen the eco vans? I've never seen one before, and one was at the campsite. I'll put a link in.
oh, you mean that's
They're old.
So sorry, is this a camper van, or is this a trailer, a caravan?
Yeah, both.
Oh,
I don't know how to
okay.
describe it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, stick it in the
Yeah.
in the chat, and we'll have a
We
look.
did the quick maths. If we wanted to only travel, so I've got a Model Y. I'm standard range. So if we said a safe thing is 180 kilometers, if we only travel 180 kilometers and find a caravan park and pay the $35 for a caravan park, and take 2 nights to charge up, it would take 140 days to do a lap of Australia
Ouch.
at $35 a night.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard on just caravan main sockets, because you've only got 3.3 kilowatts, and the basic physics is that takes 24 hours to fill up a battery.
Yeah.
So
But the
that
funny
is-
thing is, as much as I thought, that's terrible, when I speak to grey nomads, they think that's the best idea ever, because they travel at around an average of 200 kilometers a hop.
yes,
And the fact they could not believe, because I'm talking about people that have to spend like $800 on petrol to get from one place to another. They just thought that was the best thing since sliced bread, that they could stay somewhere.
well, and that's right, because the only number you ever hear in the
Yeah.
bush
Yeah.
is people saying liters per 100 Ks. That's
Yeah.
all they'll say. They'll say, yeah, in my rig I get 25 liters
Yeah.
per 100 K, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, wow, at $2 a liter,
Yeah.
that's not cheap motoring.
And so they're free camping. They say, but you can't free camp. But you say, yeah, but I can pay $35 a night and I'm still ahead of you.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I
Um,
was talking to a family member last night. They're from Melbourne. They're 3/4 of the way around their lap in a diesel with a caravan. I think they said they're spending about $100 a day on diesel, doing about 350 kilometers a day.
It must be a Toyota, is it?
Isuzu, I think.
Oh, because Toyotas are notorious for 25, 28 litres per 100 kilometres. That's the Land Cruisers.
Yeah, I think it was an MUX with like a 20 foot van, I think. But yeah, yep. on the one hand, they've got, I think his 1,000 Ks of range with the car is about 500 or so with while he's towing. So it doesn't have the same range problem that we would need to deal with an EV. But yeah, the cost difference is pretty compelling too, if you've got plenty of time to take your time.
Absolutely. So this thing that you were saying, James, is, oops, this.
Yeah,
So it looks like it's got rigid side.
Yeah, it does.
It's got rigid sides.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
there's a few of those around. Yes, they're very good caravan.
Oh, I hate the jockey wheel. Oh, yeah, it's got a crap jockey wheel, but anyway.
no, that's only
Oh,
the
that's the
second
same.
jockey wall. That folds
Ah,
up.
Gotcha.
It folds
Yeah,
up
the
so
A-frame
the A-frame folds so it can be parked in a typical garage.
Gotcha. Yeah, right. That's pretty cool.
And they have
They're
models
quite
that
a
have
popular
toilets and
brand.
everything on them. Yeah.
They're very good
So what's
if
the
you like
weight of it?
caravans.
What's the weight of it? I
I
wonder.
haven't looked because the price was 79,000, so I didn't go
Oof.
past that.
Ouch. Yeah, right.
Well, the Kimberley caravan folds up.
Yeah.
Not the front of that. The whole
Yeah.
thing lifts up with a Kimberley caravan.
Yeah.
But those eco ones are actually very good.
No, so going back to saying you're traveling in Australia, in what was it, 150 days, most people take a year
Yeah.
to do the big lap.
Yep.
So in an EV, time what we can do, we could easily do a lap of Australia in a year, stay at caravan parks, and you'd be well ahead of the diesel cost of a normal
Yes.
person doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because no idiot tows a caravan around Australia in 19 days. That's just the definition of insanity. Stupidity, in fact. Anyway,
And you loved it so much you went up and down the interior twice.
yes,
The
just
best
so
bit,
that
the best bit
just
with
so
the
that,
most charges.
just so that I could melt an inappropriately installed three-phase outlet or the cables to it and have phase-to-phase splashing of cable, which then had to be fixed on my return, a week later. Yeah, it's awesome fun, and it's awesome going to Coober Pedy to see a Kempower completely vandalized, and I had to change the duct tape, which didn't stick properly, to change it to cloth tape, which does stick properly. But
I think it's an unfortunate reality that in the country, the only way we're going to get good stuff is when they start putting them in roadhouses where they're manned. And I know
Yeah.
it's horrible because but I guess they're independent operators. It's not the petrol companies. Maybe that's, where they should put them.
yeah, or in the cop shop compound or something.
Yeah.
Just a place where it can't be vandalized.
Yeah.
And
The RAA's done that a few times, and South Australia looked pretty good. There's Kimber, a couple of places like that. They were in petrol
at the
stations and
roadhouses, yes,
the
yep,
roadhouses.
yep.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Helps the
fact-
business. I mean, you go and buy a pie. Or Kimber does a nice curry. Best curry I've had.
Oh, I haven't stayed at Kimber long enough. Oh, no, I did
Oh.
overnight at Kimber a couple of times.
Yeah.
But yeah, did not have
Yeah.
the curry. We'll see what happens next couple of weeks, James.
No, it's nice. Nice Punjabi family run it. Obviously, they
Yes.
catering to the long distance truck drivers, and it's
Yep.
it was really good.
Yeah, I must admit the actual food you get at roadhouses is actually really good. Top quality cooked meals, and you got healthy options, which is really good.
And the Starlink they give you at Mundrabilla, which is
Oh,
nice. Yep.
yeah, okay, I just bring my own, so I don't know.
Yeah, but seems you're stuck there for 2 hours on the 3-phase. It's nice that they give you free Wi-Fi.
True. Yes. And that's something. Look, I hope as many people, and there should be some people in the room that do a lap. And I know it sounds quaint to sort of say, well, you should do it now because it's still not easy to do,
Yeah.
and you get a much bigger sense of achievement, and it's more of an adventure, sometimes in more ways than one. But yeah, look, if anyone in this room or watching on YouTube or on X, if you're ever road trip curious, just do it. It's the best thing, and we've got all the knowledge that we can impart, and we're happy to discuss it. Whether we may even do like a dedicated Ask Us Anything just for long road trips, and we can show all the kits that we've got. So for example, if you are going across from the eastern seaboard to Perth or vice versa, you could basically get away with bringing nothing but a Type 2 cable and your UMC, because most of the roadhouses have a 20 kilowatt Delta DC charger. It's not fast, but it's a DC charger, and you can sort of basically make it the whole way across, because really the only gaps are Belladonna, which has got a 20 kilowatt Delta charger, Kaiguna, which has a very problematic tritium fast DC charger, which may work for a while. You've got Majura Pass, which has got a 20 kilowatt Delta. Mundrabilla does not. It just has 3-phase. So if you're overnighting, you could use a UMC. Whether you bring a cones cable, which is a 3-phase, the club does lend them out, but at the moment we're just completely dry because it's school holiday season and everyone's borrowing that sort of stuff. But you could also get away with just a 15 amp caravan outlet for one stop overnight, because you'll recover about 200k. About 200k's on a 12-hour overnight stay, and that'll be enough to get to the next place. And of course, once you get to, Nullarbor Roadhouse has a Delta as well, and the NRMA's crappy fast DC charger, which may or may not work properly. And then you're going to have Yalalta with a 50 kilowatt, and after that it's all milk and honey. So then you've got Sejuna, and then it's just unbroken string of pearls all the way along the eastern seaboard, all the way up the eastern coast to, say, Townsville and beyond. And then you can go west all the way to Mount Isa and actually fast charge at Mount Isa until you get to the desolation that is Camberwell and west of that. So really, doing the Nullarbor now, you really don't even need much equipment. Like I said, just a Type 2 to Type 2 and a UMC, and you can basically do it. And if you've got a cons, all the better. But apart from that, and you need a spare tyre. Do bring a spare tyre when you're going across the Nullarbor. So if you don't have one, you can borrow one from the club. We've got 6 Model Y spares and 4 Model 3 skinny spares in a bag, with jack and the whole kit all combined. So yeah, please, if you've got that itch, do scratch it. And now is perfect driving season up until probably up until the middle of November. And then after that, you've got to be careful, because if you're driving up north, you're going to start to hit up into monsoon season at the start of the wet season.
What's the worst that could happen, Harold?
The worst that can happen is you stay in Broome for a couple of days, which is okay. You then go to Fitzroy Crossing and stay there for about 4 more days than you wanted. And then you go to Kununurra and spend a week longer than you wanted in waiting for the Victoria River to subside from record high flooding. But hey, it's an experience. It's an experience. But please don't, do what others do and hit cows or kangaroos or other echidnas or other things. Oh, and I don't know, I think I said it last week. Look, if you do buy, and I think the word Jayco was mentioned, this is just my own personal opinion. It's my own experience, and I could be mistaken. But if you see Cargo Max tires on your brand new Jayco, please just go straight to a tire place and get rid of them and change them for something that only costs an extra $40 a tire more, and get something that's quality. Because the last thing you want to be doing is fixing delaminated tires on the side of the road.
That's right. That was That was 6,000 kilometers or so, and then the tires cactus.
6,000 Ks. It was appalling. Literally
Were they
appalling.
new tires or were they
They were 6,000 Ks old on a
Yeah, so
brand
they're
new Jake.
you're brand
So,
new.
in fact, actually, sorry, one of them was actually the spare, because when I sideswiped the Echidna on the way to Kalbarri, I actually put the spare on the left-hand side. So the right-hand tire, which had a split in it, that had driven about 600 Ks more than the 6,000 Ks that the delaminated tire drove, and it wasn't even hot. So I don't want to disparage Cargo Max as a brand, but in my experience, it's just a crap tire. And coincidentally, when I was coming home back on the last leg out of Kalgoorlie or out of Southern Cross, I saw a caravaner who was on whose left wheel had deflated, and they were on the side of the shoulder of the road, which was sort of like, you know, plunges down, and their caravan was on a bit of a precarious angle, and I could see that their tire was just shredded. So I don't know. Actually, it was a Jayco, so I don't know what tire they had on, but it had clearly failed completely. Oh, and James in particular, new James, if you've got a caravan, just invest $150 and get the TPMS, the Bluetooth TPMS, because that's going to save you a tire if you get a slow flat.
Yep.
So that's most of the caravans actually come with I guess you'd call it the base station thing. It's like a little bracket that has got power connected to it, 12 volts. Just go and buy it. It's Tire Link, spelt incorrectly, TIRE, and I think it's like $150, and it's the best money you'll spend, because if you get a slow leak, you'll know about it, as opposed to the tire deflating and then shredding itself, you know,
Yep.
as it shreds its guts all over the road. Anyway, enough of that caravan stuff. Have we got any other questions about Tesla or anything at all, or comments?
Does anybody know how much power the USB-Cs put out in the back?
No, but they do charge an iPad, but then I don't know.
Yeah, they don't run a
That's-
Starlink.
Oh, no, I've never tried. Did you try, James?
Yeah,
Was that the Mini, Starlink Mini?
yeah, the Mini.
Ah, yeah, right.
Yeah, you need
Okay,
power
so-
delivery, so you need 60 watts. It says it seems to run about 45, but surge up. So you need 60. So you need power delivery. So
My understanding is
actually-
all of the Tesla USB-Cs are 15 watt.
yeah,
That's a missed
Yep.
opportunity.
yeah,
Well,
Oh,
they've
and
got
speaking
they've got the cigarette lighter socket
Yeah,
that you can
yeah.
draw serious current from, but the
Yeah, that's what it
USB-Cs
is.
are just 15 watt.
Which incidentally, at the moment, everyone's hoping, but it might not be the case, that it's a software error, but it's probably not, because there was some supposition that this is a deliberate thing. Tesla is now restricting the conditions under which for lack of a better term, your cigarette outlets will stay on when the car is not occupied. And now the only time it does it is in camp mode. And unfortunately, when you're in camp mode, you can't have Sentry mode on.
And
So
you can't
that's
turn the aircon
a
off
real-
either. Aircon has to be on with camp mode as well, so you're sucking unnecessary power just to be able to use the 12 volt.
one trick I've done is in the past is put it on camp mode, have the aircon on, but turn the compressor off. So you can actually have the aircon on, but turn off, the compressor, for lack of a better term. It doesn't say compressor, but it's the AC. But it still runs the fan, which uses just a tiny little bit of power. But now the only time it actually works, because people have done, there's YouTube videos out there, and there was talk about Tesla trying to avoid liability because there might be it was talking about taxi drivers using Teslas as taxis where they leave loads on the whole time, and some dodgy load has, like, it could be even something like a e-bike or something stupid where, it's failed or burnt or something. So Tesla's just being ultra conservative and effectively clamping down on peripheral energy use while the car's not occupied. So if you've got a fridge, which I do,
Yeah.
it means it'll probably be off. Because one of the ways you could actually keep it on, or one of the times when it would stay on, was if you were charging the car. So if the car was being charged and locked and secure, it would still keep the 12-volt outlet running, which makes sense because it's getting shore power basically. But now it seems that that's all come to an end at the moment.
Sorry, can I just correct myself? I've just done a bit of spec hunting. The 2024 Model 3 has 65 watt ports.
Oh, the Highland.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So if they state that if you're running all three of them at once, you may be limited to 42 watts, but if you're running two or less, you'll get 65 watts.
So I need to
Right.
upgrade my Tesla to suit
That
my
seems to
Starlink.
be, that seems to be unique to the 2024 Model 3, and possibly the new Model Y, but as in the one that we might get next year. But the
Yes.
current ones are all rated at 15 according to the spec sheets that I've seen.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Big
So the pro
difference
tip.
in those two numbers.
So say again, James.
Yeah, big difference between the 15 and the 65 there, unfortunately. You want the Y for the towing because, as far as I can tell, the 3 is not really there yet in Australia generally with the official towing package.
No, so
But-
frustratingly, Tesla has declined homologating the Model 3 for towing, or declined to offer the towing kit, which they do offer in Europe, which is kind of strange because if anything, Europe is a harder place to get things done than Australia. So if it's good enough for Europe, I don't know why Tesla don't just decide to take people's money and offer a tow package in Australia, because the cars are licensed to tow. They've got tow limits of 1,000 kilos for the long range. So I think everything but there's the performance. I think the performance for some reason is derated to 750 kilos, I think.
So, Harold, I'm not sure if this might be new info for you, but I actually raised a service request last week to ask about when they were going to offer the tow package for the 3. And they came back pretty quickly. I could read it word for word if it's helpful, but they said they do not offer it a tow hitch as a retrofit in Australia as yet. There is work currently underway to obtain approval for the tow hitch. However, at a service centre level, we don't have any ETA on when that would be completed.
Oh, that is news.
Yeah. So, and then I said, "Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, is there any way I could be informed when it is available?" And he said, "Absolutely. We have a running list going of Model 3 owners who'd like a tow hitch. So once we get the go ahead, we can start reaching out to the people on the list."
Wow, that's actually, James, that's really good. In fact, I've just written a post-it note to. We'll as a club, we'll go and ask Tesla if there's a better timeline than that. I mean, that's great news. Presuming that's correct. That's a great advancement, because it's been a frustration of many Model 3 owners, and some including Shane Parker, who was the first person to tow a caravan with his partner Sarah. They had to do the stealth hitch, and the problem is they don't have tow mode.
Yep.
In fact, the car doesn't. There's no way of telling the car that it's towing something. So Shane actually rang me this afternoon and said, "Why has my car got? It's saying that stability control is disabled, cruise control is disabled, all these different features were disabled." And I go, "Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a rainy weather or something." He goes, "No, maybe it's because I'm towing my daughter's Land Cruiser on the back of my Model 3. And it was just it was upsetting the car. But
Yep. All right. I'll leave that info with you. Definitely sounds like if you can reach out to them as a club, you might be able to learn a bit more there.
yeah, well, I've got the oh, you can't see it because it's green anyway. But I've got the post-it note to ask.
Obviously, it's 1,000 kilo tow limit compared to the 1,600 on the Y in the 3, but still having an option to tow smaller things on a 3 sounds like it'd be useful to many people.
Well, a box trailer. Everyone. A lot of people have box trailers, and why do you have to retain a fossil car just to tow a box trailer? So, and the thing is, and the fact is, it's they sell them in Europe. So just do it here. The other frustration is, I don't know if Richard Chapman's in the, oh yeah, he's still in the house. My Model X, which is now his, and that's not weird at all, but I had to resort to going to the Fremont service center to buy the, let's call it the Heyman Reese insert that basically provides a Heyman Reese 2-inch square receiver for the Model X, because Tesla Australia refused to bring them in and homologate them. So because in Australia all you get is the flat tongue with a ball. So I had to go to the service center in the States and buy it there. You know.
And thanks for doing it too, because it is great. I used it to tow that Moby Nomad, and that was right on the limit. So
yeah, and it's super scary that hitch, that adapter is it just 1/4 turn of the release mechanism, and it just drops out frictionlessly. Like it's just amazing how that stuff works.
Are we all taking our caravans to the Mount Helena meetup?
Are you not on unmuted?
I am.
Oh, yeah, yeah, why not? Yeah, okay, good idea, James.
Can you not? You know, at the risk of being the one person, at the risk of being the one person who's putting up a fight here. Caravans should be banned from the road during daylight hours, in my humble opinion. But you know,
hey Ken, I do my best to try and drive it at night time a bit, but it's a bit scary with the wildlife.
Oh
dear.
I'll end my rant at this point.
Yeah, I don't know, James.
Easy, Ken.
What's the parking there like?
I think there's lots of it. Actually, is Shane? No, Shane's not in the room, but I believe Shane has assured me there's lots of parking. But we'll see. Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, yeah, maybe. I'll see how we go, James. Even if maybe just as a show and tell. But no photos, because we don't want any dodgy wiring on the socials. No, it's not dodgy. It's all the proper stuff, allegedly. Hey Chuck, have you got any news on charging and stuff? I mean, obviously we got. I don't know if you were with us earlier, but your Lalta is apparently up and running, which is really good. The RAA's unexpected bonus.
Yeah, when you're commenting about now's a good time to sort of do a long trip, because it's beyond when it's really hard, but it's before it's too easy that it's not exciting. That was the exact reason that I did the trip last year, because I thought, right, if I do it now, it's not like I'm spending, every single night begging for 15 amp power or whatever, but there are enough fast chargers. I think the timing for me, which was October, November last year, was, I think on the way back, I think the like the Wadena and the Kimber chargers were basically powered on after I passed through, directly through.
Yes.
So I was a bit unlucky there, but when I was coming through Southern Cross and Meriden, those ones had just been enabled, so I was lucky there. So
yep.
But yeah, it was just difficult enough that it was fun, but not too annoying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing about caravan charging, the other thing that I did was, which people might want to replicate, I don't know. The other thing I did was I planned to get to my nightly stop at about 4 p.m, maybe 3 or 4 p.m, and with about 40% in the battery, and that was basically the perfect time and state of charge to get to 100%, like at 7 a.m. the next morning.
Yes, on 15 amps, you mean?
On 15 amps, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's with a Model 3 rear-wheel drive. So by doing that, I was able to maximise the amount of free electricity I'd get from the caravan parks. I think when I did the maths at the end of the trip, it was something like a third of it came from caravan parks. And so I usually then do a bit of a top up middle of the day, and then depending on how much of a rush I was in to get to the next place. But yeah, that was a comfortable way of doing things. I think the longest middle of the day stops were the 3-phase ones, like maybe a 3-hour stop. But generally, it'll be a lot easier for anyone doing it now because of all the charges you've mentioned there.
Yeah, and if you're doing the full lap, one thing that I missed out with my caravan really frustratingly was Mataranka, which is about 90 k's or 80 k's south of, or 100 k's south of Catherine.
Yeah.
And that was because they had fresh bitumen laid the previous few days before it was all enabled. They then turned it off because they wanted to wait for the lineman to do pretty lines and patterns on the bays, and it's like very frustrating. But now it's turned on. Now something that is frustrating, and I'm going to be WA parochial just for a moment, and it's great that you're in the room, Chuck, is because obviously the great bit of news is that the new quarterly supercharging location voting round is on, so we can vote for proposed supercharger locations.
Yeah, it's really useful, this, isn't it?
Except, to be honest, if you live in WA and you're not going to do any eastern states driving, actually, I'm going to contend this might be a bit controversial. Actually, Chuck, let's just bring the map up.
Okay, sounds good.
These are the new, so this is Perth, a third of the country, WA, and then here are the supercharger locations to vote on. And I've got to say, with very few exceptions, they're almost all useless because they're basically Greater Melbourne, except for what's that one?
It's Leongatha.
So how do you say that?
Leongatha.
Oh, Leongatha, yes. Except for perhaps Leongatha, which is clearly an outer route, so that's good. On that way to, is that Wilson's Promontory? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a useful site, absolutely. And look, I'd contend that Pakenham is like a who cares, because if you already live in Melbourne, you're not charging at it. Look, maybe if you're a visitor, you might use it.
Yeah.
These ones here, that's like, let's call it outer Canberra, completely useless. The Braidwood, not so useless because you're actually crossing over a different route, so that's okay.
Yeah.
But these ones here in Greater Sydney, useless. Campbelltown, they're already
especially
in Campbelltown.
Especially that Campbelltown one, because there is already a 12-stall supercharger in Campbelltown.
Yep, and I've used it twice. So that's just literally.
And it's not showing up on the map there for some reason. There's a few new ones that aren't showing up. But
yeah, right. So that's almost like voting for something that already exists, which is interesting.
Yep.
And then again, Brisbane, Greater Brisbane, useless.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Ipswich. So because you've got Toowoomba and you've got, Brizzy. So really, if the point of voting was, and I had heard it contended that there was a separate budget assigned to the winners, because this was sort of more like an exploratory sort of, where they're trying to get additional funding to do some better good.
Yeah. Given
that people have expressed a desire for new sites. But really, in this round of voting, all it is just your main capital cities, and with very few exceptions. So, if as a West Australian, I'm inclined to go, I don't even know if I can be bothered voting, because,
it's one of those. It's kind of, the point of the voting is to get it to areas that wouldn't normally be covered, like ones which have got in, like Southern Cross and things like that.
Yes,
and it's a bit depressing seeing them all pretty much almost immediately surrounding, four of the biggest cities on the eastern seaboard. It's like they're areas that it will go to eventually, except for maybe Leongatha, maybe Braidwood.
And by the way, where's a single charger in Tassie?
Yeah, exactly. It disappeared. They took it out.
Oh yes, but it reappeared.
It doesn't make sense, because Americans are so good at voting.
Don't say that this time next month. Well,
yes,
they can organise votes and seem to get all good ideas.
Well, I mean, if you look at Canada, I mean, you've got High in British Columbia. I mean, and that is the sticks at Dawson's Creek. I mean,
Dawson's
just because
Creek.
just because they've been watching a TV program, you know,
That's
so
it.
they're going to get to vote for Dawson Creek. So, and that really is out of the way by definition. Don't know if there's anything in Alaska. No, nothing in Alaska. But
Not for
yeah,
voting
it's a real
anymore.
miss. You know,
Yeah.
you've,
There is one in Hawaii.
Oh.
You can vote for the one in Hawaii.
Oh,
Sorry.
great.
yeah, there is too.
No, I
I'm a
didn't.
li- Actually, yeah, I'd almost be inclined to do that. But how big is the island of Oahu?
There's
Just
quite a
quietly.
lot of Teslas there. I know a few people there who would really like that charger to get built because they were by a long way the last state in America to get any superchargers.
Even
Yes,
after,
indeed.
after Alaska?
Something like that. Yes, it was just weird. But that's right. I'll just in Asia Pacific, I'll just be voting for the Hakuba one in Japan. So next time I go skiing, I can top up. It's currently the leader anyway, so you know.
Yeah, well, with the group voting thing this time, it was pretty easy because there were only 4 really worth voting for. Leongatha and Braidwood, which you mentioned, and I included Ipswich and Nichols, which is the other ACT one, because those states and territories haven't had a one get up at all throughout all the rounds. So I thought we'll just give one to Queensland, one to ACT. So that next round, when there's more to vote for, hopefully, we can say to them, say to people, look, we supported yours in this round. How about you vote for Tas and WA and SA? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, what was really strange was in the previous round, I think it was Cannington was a pin, and again,
Yeah, it's just gone.
It's just nuts because it's okay if you're a commercial vehicle driver, like a taxi or an Uber or an LGA or something, you know, like you're using your car for work purposes or a limo or something, but no resident, unless you have to absolutely have to use it, no one that lives in a city would use a supercharger, except for a circumstance where they'd forgotten to charge their car and they had to go on an unexpected road trip or something like that, or they've just returned from a long journey and, you know, whatever. But all the charging is done at home, so therefore, yeah, it's just nuts that they're just putting in, voting for your local suburb. You know, it might as well just be like a footy club or something, you know, where you're voting for your footy team and you just want a supercharger where your team is.
Yeah, it needs to be like Eurovision, where you can't. I think how it works is you can't vote for your own country. You have to vote for a different country or something like that. I think that's how it works. Not a Eurovision follower, so but something like that.
And you know, we know Tesla's already announced superchargers all the way to Cairns. I think it is.
Yeah.
There's pins, or possibly even Port Douglas. But you know, hey, let's have some along the. I don't even know what that highway is called. I forget now. I've driven it lots of times, but the Flinders Highway. The Flinders Highway. So you know, let's go inland and go Charters Towers. You know, something like that, which should be an achievement.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the supercharging. My answer is I don't care, but yeah, I mean, we get 5 votes, and yeah, we could do a Ken and vote for your favorite foreign country. And
one thing it is probably worth mentioning is that the previous round kind of was extended because that was when they sacked everyone, and I think the system was kind of sat around there doing nothing. But yeah, apparently we did get one. We got Narrandera in New South Wales. Narrandera. I knew I'd get it wrong. That's right.
And wasn't Port Augusta, wasn't that a winner as well?
That had one previously. Yeah. So same round as Southern Cross. Yeah.
And that's been delivered. Oh, by the way, Chuck, have you got any word from on progress at the Bordertown supercharger?
There's been no pictures or anything like that, which is a bit odd. So you said the guys were there before Port Augusta, the same?
Yes. So the day I was there at Port Augusta, whenever that was, a week and a half ago, they were there the previous day physically installing the Bordertown one.
Yeah.
But there's no pin on PlugShare and no one's got a photo of it. And even on TMC, no one's got
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
I've
it
been
doesn't
looking.
exist. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, there was someone who said that I think someone might have mentioned it on X, and I think the electrical contractor themselves replied. It might have been a thread that you started, maybe. And they said it's only 4 stalls at Border Town, and I thought that's not much for a route that is basically between 4 stalls at Keith and 3 stalls at Horsham. That's kind of a bit. It's a route that needs a bit of beefing up, but I thought they'd do an 8 stall there at least, but no, apparently
Yeah,
not.
it's a little bit disappointing. I mean, there are. I'm just trying to bring the supercharger map over. So, oh, at least the pins turned up at Border Town. That's nice.
You wonder
Yeah.
if there's limitations on the power into that site.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't know.
It's sort of interesting. Maybe what they're doing is they're deciding for the prefab ones, they're just going to do a one single unit, and then maybe they've got an option to expand.
Maybe, yeah.
But you are
I'm
right,
just
because
looking at.
Keith is okay, but you sort of actually Bordertown will be good because you can then avoid Keith and then just go Talon Bend. If you're just in a car, if you're towing, you've got to go every stop. But look, Bordertown's good. You know, it is another close interval, which is great. You probably need another one in Nahil,
Yeah,
whatever that's something like that.
I think it's
Just
Neil.
yeah, and I mean, like Horsham's good and Stall. You know, that's a great interval. That
Yeah.
was a great thing. But yeah, they do need to put some more infill. But you know, yeah, and you got Port Augusta. Yeah, that was a winner. That was the Q1 2023 winner.
Which is an age ago now.
Yeah, and to say that it's in development is a little bit out of date because I mean, we know it's there,
Yeah.
but apparently hasn't been energized yet, which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I did see a photo with the bags over the stalls. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, indeed. But it is what it is. Oh, and Chuck, so one thing, obviously this has been very impertinent because it's mainly for me and James's benefit and Shane and Sarah, because we're stupidly bringing our caravans over to Tassie for the AVE conference.
Yes.
It's on the 30th
Second
of
and 3rd of December of November.
Sorry, yeah. So the first of November is the conference. That's on the Friday.
Yep.
And then the Saturday, the second and the third is the
expo.
Yep. What was I going to ask? Oh, we're going to invite ourselves to a casual meetup on the Thursday.
Yes.
So feel free to give us ideas of where we can do that or whatever. Especially since we're going to have 3 caravans to drag around.
No, we're not taking the caravan because we've only got 2 weeks long service, so we're going to do a bit quicker.
Oh, cool.
So, but we have booked. I've just put in our itinerary. We've booked ensuite caravan sites, so we do Tesla camping, sleep in the back of the Tesla camping, but we book ensuite caravan sites, so that you've got showers and toilets and everything there, and you can just roll in whatever time. So apart from first stop, we aim for Cocklebiddy, because then we can do a full charge at Kaiguna, charge at Cocklebiddy on the 15 amp, and then you've got Madura Pass at the on the 3-phase. Last time we made it to Madura Pass on the first day, so
yeah. See, I could never imagine doing Perth to Geelong in 6 days. I think I did back before all the extra charges were in. I think I did. Was it Cunardin? I think it's just before, just past Northern. Yeah, Cunardin to Cleve in South Australia. I did that in 5 days, and that was me going as much as I could each day. So those extra charges certainly help.
Yeah, so we have a caravan. We have Big 4 and a G'day Parks Pass, so you get 10% off. So it's about $40 a night. So sleep in the Tesla, but you've got showers and toilets on the en-suites.
I did quite a few of those. That was very handy.
Yeah,
it's very civilized. Very civilized.
That's it.
Cool.
So also speaking of the expo, we're at the moment recruiting for people to do little talks to the general public, little 15, 20-minute presentations.
Does this mean we get our ticket paid for?
Well, it is for the expo, which is free to get in, so I will give you 50% off.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Conference? We're happy to talk at the conference.
I'm not sure.
The conference is
I think they've lined all the conference ones
That's
up.
the most expensive part of the whole bloody trip. That's costing me
know.
more than charging and more than accommodation.
I know.
Yeah,
it's-
$300.
Yeah.
300
My
bucks.
wife's coming as well. Going to send her shopping. It's going to be cheaper.
That's impressive.
Yeah, surely you can do a good deal for people that have driven more than. I reckon that the deal should be if you've driven more than 2,000 Ks to the conference, you should just be able to get in for free.
That's what I reckon. But
Obviously.
unfortunately, we've got a third
Especially if you're
party.
stupid enough not to buy the
management company
early
doing this
bird
and-
tickets.
Sorry?
Especially if you're stupid enough not to get the early bird tickets.
Yeah.
They're actually still, according to Ava's website, that even though the time has lapsed, it's still available. Or it was a couple of days ago.
All right, I
But-
might send a pleading email.
I think they were trying to boost sales. I think they were keeping
Yeah.
the early bird prices for a bit longer from
All
memory.
right, I might send a pleading email tomorrow then.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to find where I reported it all down. The expos had a bit of a few challenges. I'm just going to bring up the list now. Yeah. In the 2.5 weeks around the conference, there is, oh, come on, bring it up. Bring up the list now. Yeah, there's the All Energy Australia conference in Melbourne a week and a half beforehand. There's I think was it Mobility Live Australia in Melbourne 3 days beforehand, and there's the Sydney International EV Show in Sydney a week afterwards. And so, yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge getting sponsors and exhibitors and things like that because all the national ones just want to go to Sydney and Melbourne and they'll skip Hobart. So we've had to get a lot of the local dealers and things like that. But yeah, it was touch and go for a while. But yeah, we've got things underhand now, and we've got some government sponsorship and things like that. So
Yeah,
so
cool.
that's why I haven't been on here speaking the conference that much because we
You
weren't
weren't
really
sure.
sure what was going to happen.
Yeah,
But,
right. That's a shame. I
yeah.
mean, at least us sandgropers can be bothered to drive all the way to Tassie. I mean, come on.
That's right. Yeah.
That's over the water, so
That's it.
it's
And like Harold's normal speaking fee is $50,000. He's prepared to discount that.
but actually, all jokes aside, I mean, look, we're happy to if you want someone to talk about long road tripping or charging or the importance of. I did notice
Yeah.
one of the conference talks was about reliability of chargers. I think it was charging infrastructure.
That
I
sounds
think
right. Yeah.
it's doing a talk about something like placement of EV chargers and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, with James and myself and Shane and Sarah, I mean,
Yeah. Well, Shane and Sarah have offered to talk about their caravan EV experiences
Yep.
it's for the expo. But yeah, so that's one who hopefully we'll get speaking. And yeah, if you can think of any general public focus topics that you can talk about for 20 minutes and
look,
Yeah,
I think
I mean-
the best thing I think the most relevant thing I could talk about is the absolute criticality of it's not just it's critical to have fast DC infrastructure out there. So that's
yeah,
the first step. But unfortunately, that's presumed to be the only step.
yeah,
And you basically, and like I've been quoted, in the media, you can't just plant a flag. You can't just install a fast DC charger like you would plant a flag, declare victory, and then walk off. Because the only thing more damaging, in fact, and it actually is more damaging than not having a fast DC charger, is actually having one at a location where people rely on it or think it's there or think a route is viable, only to find that it may or may not be working on the day.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, WAV network, that will transform that experience. But to be honest, You know, we've got a location in Halls Creek that has been not non-functional for 9 weeks. Well, you know, 9 weeks is appalling. And people, you know, we had simultaneously 10 people attempting a round Australia trip. Well, when you get to Halls Creek, you've got a bit of a roadblock, you know, and that's really disappointing. So I think, I mean, that would be, I mean, I'm happy to talk about that or anything really, but it's a criticality of, yes, because, you know, you'll always have pioneering people that just, you know, that want to travel 300 Ks a day and you charge on 15 amp. I mean, one of the early people to get a Model S in Western Australia was Steve and Keita Burrell. And Steve picked up his car, I think it was in Melbourne, and he drove it from Melbourne to Perth on nothing but
was
15 amps.
Was that Steve of the Nullarbor?
Steve of the Nullarbor.
Yes, that's him.
He's not really of the Nullarbor, he's more through the Nullarbor. But or Steve by the Nullarbor. But he basically, I mean, he drove sort of 24/7 sort of thing, in the sense that he would drive for, you know, 3 hours slowly and then charge for 8, 9, 10 hours and then drive another 3 or 4 or whatever hours slowly, or 5 hours slowly and charge for another 15 hours or something. So he did it the really, really hard way, you know, which is fine. But then there are other people that have, you know, subsequently done, you know, much easier laps. And hopefully in a couple of years, it'll just be like, you know, jumping from one petrol station to the next. It'll just be super duper ridiculously easy that no one will even think about talking about it, you know, because it'll just be, well, everyone drives their car. But it's that bridging time when it's not quite super simple and it's not quite really hard. But if you turn up to a charger and suddenly it blacks out or it's not working, it's going to really ruin your day, because a 20-minute charging session will turn into a 20-hour 10 amp outlet charging session.
Yeah. Well, look at Jury Bay, when Jury Bay went down on a weekend. And that was just people getting confident enough to go to, in WA, that coast is where everyone goes. The amount of people that would probably never touch an EV again because of that one weekend.
That MG owner that got their car towed back to to Lancelin. Yeah. They would have hated their car that day and gone, why did I do this to myself? You know? And that's really sad, because that's not the way it should be. Yeah. And that stuff is, and that was actually more of that was a software issue, a software update issue. That was, you know, and again, I think one thing too is the key to organisations that install chargers. They'll get government funding, or they'll get ARENA funding, or they'll get whatever it is. None of those people doing any of that planning or even any of the installation own an EV, let alone have undertaken a long road trip, to have suffered the indignity of turning up to somewhere and going, oh, bugger, this thing's not working. What do I do now? Oh, I'll go to this place. Oh, that's not working either. Oh,
the frustration thing was like ringing ChargeFox, who through no fault of their own didn't know how to help you, couldn't offer you any advice.
Yeah, like, and then in Tassie we've got there are a few councils which have installed some AC chargers, some have installed DC chargers, and they get the grant and they install it and they have their big announcement, and that's great. And then something breaks and they don't know what to do. There was one of them, Hobart City Council installed it. Well, this has been recorded, so I probably shouldn't name them. But anyway, a council in Hobart.
It's fine. It's the truth.
Installed a Tritium 50 kilowatt charger. Thought, okay, that's great, job done. And it was in a very leafy car park. There are leaves on the ground. And, you know, the air intake at the back, you know, that fan needs to be cleaned out occasionally. There was no maintenance done. Yeah, and on the other hand, you've got Electric Highway Tasmania, which was established by EV owners, including Clive, the managing director. He famously drove his original generation Nissan Leaf from Hobart to Adelaide when there were no fast chargers. So did the caravan park thing, except it was 80 to 100 kilometers between stops. So he's done that. He's since done it in a Model S and in a newer Leaf and things like that. He's done other trips, but he knows what's needed because he drives an EV. So it's
and that's the thing.
They know how to locate things. Yeah.
And you know, you talk to people, maintenance people, they go, oh yeah, well, you know, you can just use the 3-phase. And it's like, well, yes, you can, but do you realize that the difference in time between using a 150 or 100 kilowatt fast DC charger and an 11 or 7 kilowatt AC outlet, which it basically is when you're using it, that difference in time is from 20 minutes to 5 hours. So just because there is some shitty alternative, excuse my language, but just because there is that alternative doesn't mean that that's an appropriate solution. And say, oh, well, in that case, there's no rush on repairing the DC charger because, hey, you can, you know, I mean, I can, you know, I can, rather than using a gas outlet cooker, I can rub 2 sticks together for half an hour and maybe get an ember and make my own fire. I mean, of course, it's just because that's what can be done doesn't mean that's what should be done.
No, so if I go back to During as well, the expectation that that's there and working, because across the road you can see the tritium that used to be on the biofuel is still plugged in. They've put it onto mains, and I wandered across the road and said, "Can I use that?" And I said, "Oh, we don't think it works." Left to ring the owner, but I can't contact him. No worries. Walk to the caravan park.
It's now been taken away.
Yeah, but you walk to so that's great. So can I use the 3-phase? I've got a plug here. I'll give you $50. Just need a plug in. Oh no, I'll have to ring the owner, and he can't be contacted. So go to caravan park. Can I use your charger here? Oh no, we're not sure. We'd stopped using them since the new charger went in. But it's just that expectation, because when it's there, people think, well, that's it. That's the solution done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the criticality is these grand plans when you get federal politicians that say, we're going to do a national highway. Well, first question is, well, where is it? Because the announcement was made 18 months ago, more. I think it was more than 18 months ago, possibly even longer than that. And, you know, where is it? You know, it's not, there's only about half a dozen black spots and they haven't been done yet. So, yeah, we definitely don't want flag planting, you know, and victory declarations without the maintenance and that whole infrastructure, which is a whole nother level, you know, of maintaining these things. And like you say, Chuck, it's like the council. Actually, UWA had the same issue. There's a certain type of gum tree that's got, it's the thing that makes the gum nuts or whatever, and you got all these really loose, like fluffy sort of seed pod thing, whatever. And yeah, it just blocks up the radiator, because that's all it is. It's just a standard radio with a 12-volt thermal fan, and all you ever hear is the fan go like crazy and nothing, and the tritium puts out nothing, you know. And I mean, you know, on my latest trip, you know, through Queensland, you know, there was still, Marlborough was stuffed, and other sites, and Maryborough. So Marlborough and Maryborough, both broken, the tritiums, you know. But then you got vandalism in Cooper Pedy and in Halls Creek and in Fitzroy Crossing and, you know, other places. So it's a criticality, and you won't understand it unless you've lived it.
Yeah.
So really we need these people that are doing these projects to actually hop in an EV with a bit of coaching, and you say, all right, just go and drive to Camberwell and see what that experience is like.
And it's not that people don't know that these things happen. You go into a remote country town, and the petrol bowsers are inside of those security screens. It's like not like it's a surprise that this type of thing happens in these remote country towns where there's poor infrastructure and poor services. It's not a new thing.
Exactly. But yeah, happy to talk. But yeah, we'll be lining up a casual meetup on the Thursday.
Yeah, I'll try and find a suitable venue together for that. We'll make it a dinner or something like that.
Yeah,
Is there
dinner.
anything with like West Australian cuisine, so we can have some normal food while we're over there? There's foreign overseas stuff.
Yeah, we'll have
Okay, yeah.
deep fried sandgroper, please, with
Yeah.
with a bit of quokka
Roast quokka.
quokka croutons or something on the side.
You can bring your own quokkas because they're meat. I think it's only if it's fruit and vegetables you can't bring them. So you can bring your own quokkas. That's all right.
That's all right. The people at border don't know about the frunk. They never check in there. They just fill it with fruit and veggies. Honey.
Yep.
I just filled my frunk to the top with honey. Mate, I
Oh,
sold that
no.
in Sejuna for thousands. Pay for the charging.
That is so true. That is so true. All right. Well, it's nearly 9:30 for us, and 11:30 for you, Chuck. So it's getting on. But
it is. And this time next week, you guys will be over here. It will be 10:30 to 12:30 for me.
Ooh, ouch. Okay, so we'll just do you really early. We'll do
Yeah,
anything.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
First off after the news.
That's it.
What was I going to say? Okay, so if we've got any, last couple of questions for the last 5 minutes or so.
Just quickly,
Hey.
I was just quickly going to say the production results came out pretty much as expected, but yeah, market dropped about $10, so the stock's down to about $245.
So in the 460s or something like that, Pete?
462,900 or 462,800, something like that. So
and deliveries?
So sorry, that was the deliveries. The production was 469,000.
Oh, so slightly more production than deliveries.
Yeah,
Slight.
production 469,796, so call that 470, and deliveries 462,890, so call that 463.
Yeah, cool. And the market's slightly sad, but then if you look at, I always compare with something like Apple because that's sort of, it's a tech stock, and they sort of Tesla and those tech stocks will sort of swing in a similar direction, although Tesla's always magnified one way or the other. Oh, I can't see the open yet. Are you sure it's opened? It might be in the pre-open.
That's still in the pre-open.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
We can open for another 5 minutes or so. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
So do you know if Osborne Park is going to do an opening while they got the Cybertruck?
That's a very good question, Darren. I wonder if Tesla's a little bit tired, like after the awesome opening at O'Connor. It would be great, though, if they did do a grand opening. And to be honest, they really should.
Absolutely.
We might ask Tesla Osborne Park, because that would be good. It's a great venue. The service center is amazing. It's massive.
Yeah, well, I was hoping they'd do a thing like, because you guys got to see it at the night time where you've seen inside it. So yeah, I was hoping something like that would happen again, but
yeah, look, it's something we might try and organise. I don't think anyone knows how long the Cybertruck will be in Osborne Park. It's obviously been in O'Connor for a few weeks, and it went to Liontown's Kathleen mine site. Kathleen Valley, I think it was mine site, for some promotional videos or whatever. But it obviously won't be in Osborne Park forever. So if anyone's interested in looking at it, definitely do that sooner than later, because it probably will leave in the next couple of weeks. But look, we'll see what we can do, Darren, and ask, if there's, well, in the first instance, if there's going to be a grand opening of Osborne Park, and if not, if there is a chance of having a reprise of the TOCWA members opening of the Cybertruck. Because I must admit, I didn't actually see it myself because I was away, but I did see some of the photos, and that was awesome that they actually opened the frunk and the vault and all that sort of thing. Even though you couldn't physically get into the car, it's just valuable to see it in 3D, rather than on the YouTube video or something like that. But we'll find out, and we might ask a rhetorical question or two to see if we can maybe get that to happen. Alrighty, any last other questions or comments before we wrap this awesome show up?
Harold, can I just give I don't know if this has come up before, a little bit of feedback. When the Cybertruck was at the O'Connor store, can anyone understand why they closed at 1 p.m. in the afternoon on a Saturday?
Yes.
I know it's their normal close time, but I
Yeah.
got there, I couldn't get there in the morning, so I got there at about 1:45, and it was all closed up and there were a few people walking around. While I was there for 15 minutes, 6 or 7 other groups turned up to have a look at it. And so it was a big missed marketing opportunity for them to, if it was only there for a week or two, to not have it open for the whole weekend.
I guess it's a employee management and rostering issue, because for example, I do know it's illegal for a car dealer, and Tesla did get into trouble at the old Osborne Park site shortly after they opened, because they were dobbed into, presumably by other dealers or employees or whatever. But there are very strict time limits. So I know, for example, if they're offering test drives, they are strictly forbidden from doing that or being open beyond 1 p.m. on a Saturday. And the fine, they can lose their dealer license and at worst, and at best have large fines for just simply being open at the wrong time if they're doing the wrong activity. So yeah, I get it. It's just a weird
the
thing.
other feedback that you might want to feed back to them then is the email they sent out to everyone that had, come and see Cybertruck while it's at Tesla O'Connor. That email, if you clicked on the link, the website said it was going to be there. I can't remember whatever the dates were. It just said a date to a date, 9 till 4:45 every day was what it was, the impression it gave. And then the fact that one weekend it was there, it was Saturday till 1 and not at all on Sunday. It's a big disparity between those two things. So they might want to be careful. And I was just trying to dig it up, but I can't find it. The email I got yesterday or today about Cybertruck being at Osborne Park,
yes,
that's the same thing. It's got 2nd till the 6th of October, 9 till 4:45.
Oh,
So
really?
It implies that it's open all weekend, which I'm guessing it probably isn't going to be as well.
Yeah, okay, no, we'll definitely forward that feedback, and we might get an email out, or at least get a message on Facebook to say, hey, by the way, Osborne Park will be closed at 1 p.m. on Saturday and not open at all on the Sunday.
Yeah, because I was just amazed, like when I rocked up the O'Connor store and I was wandering around going, I think it's closed, but is anyone else here? There would have been 7 or 8 groups that turned up to have a look at it, and I went, oh, it's closed. Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, that's actually really disappointing. That's very disappointing, actually. Yeah, look, unfortunately, Tesla aren't always fantastic at the details, and you're right. Unless you spell it out in black and white, people will just assume that, hey, they're open all day because it's a it's a limited time span, and you want to make the most of it.
Well, especially most of you work Monday to Friday working hours. The only time you can get there is on the weekend. If you got something on Saturday morning, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good point. Very good point. Alrighty, on that note, and it is nearly our bedtime for the X time limit on these videos. Pete, how would you outro an awesome show like this, as if we didn't already know?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join Tokwa, go to the Osborne Park showroom at the right time on the weekend, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Before I do go, quick note, we are having a casual meetup on Sunday between 11 and about 2 p.m. on this Sunday at the Helena Tavern. I think that's right. So love to see you there. And if not, please join us at next week's Ask Us Anything. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
You guys.
Good night.
Peace.